Welcome back, conscious creators, to week 9 of the Christos Chronicles. I am Christos, and today we are going to be discussing why momentum is like a drug. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, I want to give a warm welcome. And to those of you who have been along for the journey, I want to give a big shout out, because without you all, my channel cannot grow, and I really just wouldn't have as much inspiration and momentum to keep continuing doing what I'm doing. And that brings me to today's topic: why momentum is like a drug. And I feel like momentum has its pros and it has its cons, but today I really want to talk about how we can really use momentum to our advantage. And I also want to use a little bit of references from the movie Limitless. If you've been following my channel, then you know I like to use movie references. I've used The Matrix in the past. There was a video that I uploaded, but it got taken down, where I used In Time. But my background is in film as well as a lot of other creative crafts, but I really love film because I feel like a lot of truths are hidden in film. So today I'm really going to be using the analogy of the film Limitless. And no, I'm not saying that momentum is a drug like the Limitless drug, but what I'm saying is that from the results we produce from gaining momentum in our lives, it can become addictive like a drug. So that's what I want to really highlight in today's discussion, is why momentum is like a drug. Now, before we get into today's discussion, let's actually break down what the definition of momentum means in life. Momentum in life is the compounding effect of consistent small actions that create forward motion, transforming effort into a self-sustaining force toward goals. It is a snowball effect where initial discipline fuels motivation, overcoming inertia, self-doubt, and the need for immediate results. Now, I think that this is a really great definition, and the reason being is because there's many different gems that we could bite off here. But one that sticks out to me is the compounding effect of consistent small actions that create forward motion. The compounding effect, what that means is to continuously do things daily, to continuously compound whatever it is that you're doing daily. So this is where they get the saying, practice makes perfect. The more that you practice, the more that you continuously strive at a thing daily, the greater you will become at it. And that creates consistency. So if we stay consistent in our calling and our purpose and our dreams, whatever it is that we feel led to do in life, we will start to see a compounding effect from that consistency. So I feel like that's one of the main things that we need to take away from building momentum, is the consistency. That's what momentum requires, is consistency. A lot of us have talent, but a lot of us struggle in the consistency department. Now, if you've been following the Christos Chronicles, then you know that I like to give you guys insight into what's been going on in my personal life and how I pretty much, got led to create today's topic. And a lot of that inspiration came from where I was giving my energy. I haven't made a Christos Chronicles in about a month now, and that's with intention. And the reason being is because I wanted to pick up my momentum on my shorts. Shorts has been producing a lot more subscribers to my channel. It's been getting me a lot more engagement. And I feel as though a lot more people need daily motivation than weekly motivation. Although I will strive to continue to produce as much long form content weekly as I can, I will commit to more short form because it is a lot more efficient for me to make and stay consistent, and also stay consistent in the long term. I noticed that when I try to focus more on the long term, I'm not as consistent. So this is something that I feel like I noticed over the duration of time that I spent away from creating content, long form wise. Now, outside of that, creatively, I have been focusing on like film. I have been focusing on personal branding and things of that nature. And I feel like the reason being is because film holds a dear place to me. Like I said before, if you follow my page, then you know that I post a lot of content that uses film as an analogy, because I feel like a lot of deeper truths are disguised in films. So with that being said, I am working on my first short film. I will be keeping you guys updated along the journey. This is me stepping outside of my comfort zone. So I'm a little scared. So I'll keep you guys updated along the journey. But outside of that, um, just really been focusing on building consistency. I think that was really my main goal for 2026. Starting in 2025, I was really trying to get a lot of people on board around Sagittarius season, around the November time frame, because I think a lot of times we undermine building momentum going into the new year, going into the spring. We know the real new year isn't until 2026 spring, but to me, the winter of 2025 is the best opportunity to get a head start of building momentum. That's 90 days to start building momentum going into the official new year, which is now May or April 2026. So I feel like, that's really what I had really want to focus more of my attention on. The first quarter of 2026 was just building momentum. And I will say that it has given me a lot of inspiration. It's given me a lot of data, a lot of things that I can learn from, tweak. So with all of that, there's a lot of good that comes from that. Now, with that being said, let's jump more in depth into today's discussion, why momentum is like a drug. Now, first things first, let's talk about the power of momentum. Momentum creates clarity. The more you move, the clearer things become. It generates direction. Action reveals the next step. It builds confidence through repetition and visible progress. In the movie Limitless, the main character experiences this. Once he starts moving with enhanced capacity, everything accelerates. Decisions, output, and results. Now, what I feel like we could take away from the power of momentum is when we look at the movie Limitless and we see the character goes from a state of entropy and chaos to a state of movement where he first starts to clean his home. He starts to get everything in order. I think this is really important when you are building momentum because you can't really have momentum without clarity. Trying to move fast without direction will cause an accident. And this is oftentimes why we have so many accidents in our lives, because we do not have clarity. Although we may have momentum, we don't have clarity. So what good is a fast moving vehicle going in the wrong direction? That's just something for us to really think on. Now, to my second point, which is the high of momentum. Momentum can feel euphoric, almost addictive. You start to crave productivity and output. Progress feels like stimulation. You want more of it. Like the NZT48 pill in Limitless, performance becomes intoxicating. Now, this is something that I feel like we all experience when we build momentum in our lives and we start having success, we start seeing results. We get high because it's a dopamine. And that's what we have to understand about social media, about instant dopamine too, is when we start to see, the support, the engagement, however that looks, whether it's in business, whether it's in whatever it is that you do in life. Once we start to see that support, a lot of times we get addicted to it. And it's not even necessarily that we get addicted to what we're receiving. We get addicted to the fast paced movement of what's happening in our life. It's like going from poverty to being wealthy. It's like you become anxious. And this is something that I want to speak on more on my page, is why we need to train our nervous system to actually prepare for the next season or version of ourselves. Because the next version of you, which I hope is higher, that you evolve into, is going to require a more balanced and calm nervous system. And that's something that I'm even going through myself, is learning how to regulate my nervous system. So when it comes to the high of momentum really comes from a lot of times the overstimulation of dopamine that we receive from the results of our work. So that's something that we just want to be mindful of, because a lot of times that can keep us up at night, that can keep us spending time away from our loved ones and not really creating a balance between work and life. Now, let's talk about the dark side of momentum. The dark side of momentum can turn work into addiction. It can lead to mental and emotional imbalance if unchecked. It can create impulsiveness, moving fast without alignment. You can become productive but misdirected. In Limitless, the same power that expands his ability also begins to distort his stability and judgment. Now, I feel like when we take a look at the movie Limitless, we see that the main character, Eddie, is on a high. He's taking the Limitless pill, which is giving him access to pretty much 99% of his brain, but he's also having a come down. And when he comes down, he needs more of the pill to continue to live life at the same capacity. Now, I'm not saying that we are addicted to the drug of momentum. What I'm saying is that momentum becomes addictive, and what it does is it creates burnout. We crash out. Eventually, once you start posting so consistently and you don't really have directions, goals, and what you're trying to reach, eventually you will crash and burn out. It's just a natural part of the process if you do not have a system in order. And I've seen this honestly happen with a lot of big time creators. There's been a lot of big time creators that I've seen have really stepped back from really producing a lot of extravagant content because of how much time it's taken and the burnout or the crash out that they experience after. But the high that they probably experience from all of the engagement that they get, all of the support, yeah, it can be addictive. But the dark side of that is the crash and burnout, the energy that it takes. And you see this in a lot of big time creators like Mr. Beast. Even Mr. Beast has spoken on this. So as I said, when I'm talking about momentum and the dark side of momentum, I'm not actually referring to it as like a real drug. I'm paraphrasing it and using the analogy of the movie to give a greater context as to what happens when we become addicted to work and putting work on such a pedestal that now we crash and we burn out, or we don't have direction, or we're not efficient in what it is that we're producing. So I feel like that is the dark side of burnout. It really takes away a lot of clarity that we can have when we have structure, direction, and a system. So that is the dark side of momentum. Now, another important thing we need to take into consideration is the need for grounding. And the reason being is because momentum must be balanced with stillness. Without grounding, speed leads you in the wrong direction. Purpose is what stabilizes momentum and gives it meaning. Stillness resets the mind and realigns intention. Now, I know this may be difficult for a lot of people who really just go off work, and I'll think about it later. I know a lot of people battle with really sitting down and taking out the time to really think about what it is that they want the audience, the customer, the consumer to gain from whatever it is that they're offering. And this is hard, a lot of times to do, but it's necessary because through taking the time or the moment out to really just ask yourself, what do I want my audience to gain from this reel? What do I want my audience to gain from this product? What do I want my audience to gain from this video that I'm going to upload today? And did I accomplish that? I think that's the most important thing. And that's what helps us have a lot more clarity and direction when we are creating anything that we are going to offer to the world. So I feel like grounding is necessary. Stillness is very necessary. And this is why it's such a regarded spiritual practice amongst many successful people, billionaires, millionaires, athletes. Many people revere the practice of meditation for this very reason, to make better decisions and have more grounding in their life. Now, to wrap up today's discussion, I want to leave you all with a few points. Momentum is a tool, not the destination. It can elevate your life or it can destabilize it, depending on how it's directed. The goal is not just to move fast, but to move correctly. Now, I think that we need to really focus on just really moving with intention. Intention is everything, but you cannot have intention when you do not sit down and actually think out what it is that you want people to gain from your experience, your product, your service, whatever your offering is. You really need to sit down and ask yourself, what are these people gaining? And am I really giving it my best effort? So that pretty much concludes today's discussion why momentum is like a drug and why we shouldn't really get addicted to momentum. Momentum can be positive, it can be negative, but we just need to be mindful. We need to stay consistent in whatever it is that we need to do. We need to regulate our emotions and be mindful of how we feel. Not every day is made the same, not every week is made the same, and we know every season is not the same. So, with that being said, I hope you all are embracing the new year, which is now, today, Aries season. And I hope you are capitalizing on the energy of Aries season into the next season of Taurus. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Wholeness.